About fat and set?
Sorry?
No, I'm all for fat and set.
It's a public consultation.
Fat and set. My fat and set.
That's institutionally so marriage.
And then, Chair, we'll talk about fraudulent marriages that we've seen it in South Africa. Yebo.
Voice check. Barore 1, 2, 3.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
So I am here.
Good evening and welcome to your parliament, Parlamente Lakho, Parlamente ya hao. Libito la ka ke Tshepo Mori, and I am your host for this evening. We are coming to you live from Parliament TV studio here in Cape Town and on 30 community radio stations all over the country. Be sure to follow, like and subscribe on all our social media platforms at Parliament of RSA. Now, this show is designed to educate our listeners and viewers to keep you informed about all matters pertaining to Parliament, including the work of parliamentary committees. Now, since the start of the 7th Parliament last year, the National Legislature has strengthened oversight, enhanced public participation, and has been advancing lawmaking processes. In tonight's show, we review the work of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, specifically on the Marriage Bill. Now, introduced in December of 2023, the Marriage Bill represents a significant legislative initiative aimed at unifying and modernizing the country's diverse marriage laws. Now, this comprehensive reform seeks to consolidate existing statutes, including the Marriage Act of 1961, the Civil Union Act of 2006, and the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act of 1998. Into a single, inclusive legal framework that aligns with constitutional principles of equality and non-discrimination. Now, we are joined for the next hour by the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Mr. Musa Chabane, who will help us understand the Marriage Bill and the work that the committee has done so far to involve the public in processing this bill. And because this is your parliament, your voice, your future, we invite you to participate in our conversation. Now, whether you're watching us on DSTV Channel 408, on YouTube, other social media platforms, or whether you're listening on one of the 30 community radio stations, including right here in Western Cape on the Voice of Cape Town, Paarl FM, Zibonele FM, and in the Free State on Muteo FM, Qwaqwa FM, please leave a comment or call in to ask Mr. Musa Chabane, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, questions or share your opinion on the Marriage Bill. And you can do so by calling us on WhatsApp on 073 444 9810. That is 073 444 9810. And you can leave a WhatsApp text as well, or use our social media platforms on X and Facebook, and we'll strive to attend to all those questions. Now, before we get into it, let's hear what South Africans who have attended the public hearings on the Marriage Bill had to say.
Bendilapha ke namhlanje kule marriage bill ithethiwe yona kamnandi, kodwa ke njengomuntu okholwayo thina abantu bakudala sikholelwa kumtshado wendoda nomfazi. NeBhayibhile ke phaya kwesasahluko seGenesis sokuqala ithetha ngaloo nto. Xa uThixo ekudala umuntu umdala ngolo hlobo. Mna ke ngisiqu ndivumelana nalo mthetho kaThixo, because if uyandibona nawe ujongile nje sendinqakavunga ngokweminyaka.
Mna ke ndithi ke ngokuba eyona ndawo ndiyithandileyo phaa yinto yobana ngaba wonke umntu ongena emtshatweni makeba kanti u-18 years and above. But besisiye zavela ke imbono zabantu zokuba abantu bamele babe ne-21 years of age because batshata bebesebancinci bengakabikho kwixabiso elirayithi, abanye bengakakwazi nozenzela ii-decisions ezirayithi. Kodwa ke from kule 18 years ukuya ngaphambili umntu abe kanti usezingqondweni.
Page 5, chapter 3, which are the requirements of monogamous and polygamous marriages. The subsection reads as such: for the purpose of this section, a husband refers to a male person and excludes a male partner in a same-sex marriage. I don't know how to explain that this is wrong. Because for me, you're supposed to hear the wrongness in it. Because it's not only heterosexual marriages that exist. There are bisexual people who are in relationships and would like to have both a man and a woman as a spouse. So to have those things, or to have legislation like this, it's very limiting, not just for gay men, but for the whole entire spectrum of queer individuals who might want to one day get married in non-conventional ways, especially in polygamous marriages.
Intlanganiso lebesikuyo ibinawo umxo kodwa ezinye zezinto thina singulo mbutho ndikumenshinileyo asihambisani nazo kangangokubana asizimiselanga ukutshatisa abantu besini esinye kuba ikho eBhayibhileni loo nto. Okwesibini, nale yesithembu soomama asihambisani nayo. Sikholelwe ekubeni uba indoda ibe yindoda yasimnye ngokwelizwi likaThixo.
So apho ndiqonda ke ngoku ndiyayamkela yona ibhili. Apho ndiqonda uba ndiyakhalaza khona. Kukho abantu abaninzi phaa kule yam i-area abalahlekelwe zi-ID zabo. Oko bekulahleka i-ID umntu akayifumani. So uHome Affairs andimazi ke yena kumona phi igunya loba avumele umntu atshate ngaphandle kwamangqina. Kwakukade kubakho abantu abangamangqina like abazali xa umntu eyotshata angazuke yotshata isisiqu. Ngoku sichanekile ke ngoku kulahlekelwe i-ID okanye ufake kwi-loan uyoboleka imali uzibone solutshatiswe nendoda ongazange wayibona.
A reminder that this is a special broadcast brought to you by Parliament of RSA on Parliament TV Channel 408 on DSTV and on 30 community radio stations in Northwest, Remobur Pirima FM, Mabato FM, Mafikeng FM, and in Mpumalanga we are on Kazamanzali FM, Lehwa FM, Emalahleni FM, Mkondo FM, and also in the Eastern Cape we are on Mdansane FM, UCR FM, SYR FM, Alfred Nzo FM, Ngubela FM, and of course we are joined by Mr. Musa Chabane, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, who will be talking to us about the marriage bill. Chair, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks very much, and thanks for inviting us.
Of course, Chair, let's jump straight into it. Please just inform our viewers and listeners about some of the key objectives of the bill and why are we here? Why do we have a marriage bill?
Well, thanks very much for inviting the Portfolio Committee, and we've also invited members of the committee to join because this also serves as a public hearing to understand the views of members of the public and stakeholders. If you take back at the time that the then Minister, Dr. Pando, initiated a process to constitute a commission that will look on the reforms of a marriage, and this SA law reforms marriage. And to the extent that they've done their work and proposed that there must be a single marriage a statute that includes all marriages. Subsequent to that, there was a court process that was deposited by the Women Law Trust versus the President and others, which others it will include Parliament, contesting the Marriage Act of 1961, that some of the sections there are not inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, that they don't include certain marriages, including the Muslim marriages. And I think in that process, the court judgment at that time, when it was delivered, already the white paper was developed by the Department of Home Affairs to consultate around the subject of a single marriage. And Cabinet had approved the white paper, and subsequently the bill was developed and tabled before Parliament. Our role is to jointly with the Department of Home Affairs is to consult before we take a decision. What is important to note is that Parliament and the committee have not decided on this bill. It's subject for consultation, getting views in relation to the objectives that are outlined in the bill.
Now, talking about consultation, Chair, of course the committee has undertaken public hearings so far for the purpose of ensuring that there's involvement of the public in terms of processing the marriage bill. Now, why is public participation so important in terms of the lawmaking process in our country?
In the 5th and the 6th administration, there were cases that were contested in court. And part of them were in relation to the lack of or insufficient consultation on the processing of the law. And Parliament in the 7th administration have pulled out the string in terms of making sure that the public participation unit assist portfolio committees across to make sure that there's sufficient public consultation And I think this interaction with all the radio stations is part of the work that has been put forward by the Public Participation Unit of Parliament, which is a critical component to make sure that members of the public, stakeholders, are educated. Workshops are conducted before even any portfolio committee is going to engage with members of the public. So that is important, and we encourage that we continuously engage with members of the public, because all laws must be informed by the views expressed by the South Africans.
And of course, laws will apply to the South Africans themselves, Chair, you're correct. Now, with that, Chair, of course, there have been concerns that public hearings are held during the week. And some people commute to work, they're at work at that time. And concerns have been raised that this robs people of the opportunity to make submissions. In that regard, then, how is the committee going to ensure that every person who has an interest in the bill is going to be given the opportunity to make their submission?
There are three areas of participation. One is that the executive, when they they've developed a white paper.
Yes.
They've planned to consult all stakeholders. And that they've done so that they were able to inform the bill that must be tabled in Parliament, or the bill that Cabinet, as another arm of the state, to approve what members of society are able to contribute. So that's the one part that extensively. And when the bill is tabled before Parliament, we have a responsibility to also process the public consultation. So the Parliament is also time-bound in terms of the Constitutional Court judgment on this bill. Parliament has been given 24 months to conclude. In fact, next year, in July 2026, we have must have been concluded. And it will involve the work that National Assembly must do, public consultation. The NCOP, National Council of Provinces, also must engage in terms of their process, consult stakeholders, table to the House, and take with the President to consider whether the Parliament, in this manner, in NCOP, have satisfied the constitutional provisions in relation to the process that they've undergone. So we also considered to conduct public hearings over the weekend, and I think that we have done in Mpumalanga, in the recent public consultation in Mpumalanga. We consider those factors, that during the week that people are not going to work, but all of us were involved on this subject, whether you're at work or not. But the important is that we must reach out to all the stakeholders and South Africans.
Yes. Now, Chair, you mentioned Mpumalanga. Which other provinces has the committee visited in terms of public hearings so far?
Well, the committee has decided to identify 3 districts in each province. Okay. So we started in Gauteng, we went in KwaZulu-Natal, we went to Eastern Cape, and the last public consultation was in Mpumalanga. And all the stakeholders responded, including members of the provincial legislatures, councillors, who assist so that it's all our responsibilities as a public representative to communicate this subject or any other bill that is before public consultation.
And so far, Chair, throughout those engagements from the public, what are some of the standing issues that the committee has taken so far from those engagements that the public is raising in terms of the marriage bill?
Well, first, before we respond to that question, is that the bill seeks to provide requirement for polygamous marriages, monogamous marriages, designation of officers, marriage officers, and also the powers of the Director General in terms of revoking the standing or the authority of the marriage officers, and also the age for concluding marriages, and also there's this matter that is coming closely, the apostille letters, in the manner that those that are not South Africans but they want to conclude marriages, so they must seek apostille letters from the country of origin. So those are some of the issues that are contained in the bill, because it contains 11 chapters, that framework of the bill. But what is important is to work within the perimeters or the framework of the Constitution of the Republic, but also respond to the judgment. Secondly, the issues that are being raised in the consultation, which in public consultation, which I think we encourage, and I think in this platform, because also it will serve as attending to issues that members have raised. The issue of cohabiting, but in Maslalisane,
Fat and set.
yeah, fat and set,
Yes.
it has been raised quietly. The issue of the religious community, some within the sectors of religious community are raising the issue of the same-sex marriage not to be included in the single statutes, and some are agreeing to be included in the single statute. And other issues that are being raised, as you have listened to your audience, I mean the participant in terms of polygamous marriages. So these are some of the issues that are being raised by the public.
And of course, Chair, you mentioned cohabiting, and I know that in Gauteng, many people raised the issue of cohabiting, and that some of them even suggested that the bill should cater for that kind of situation, because a lot of people currently are opting for cohabiting. And I mean, in colloquial terms, we say fat and sit. It's a thing, we know it. Now, is the committee then considering adding a clause to this when it comes to relationships of cohabiting or even lifetime partners?
Well, at this point, our role is to, in the Department of Home Affairs, is to subject this bill to the public and get the views that are expressed, which are important, because this is an important subject that involves all of us. At the time that we are going to deliberate once we have concluded all the public hearings, we'll then develop, constitute a report. As in this conversation, the members of the committee, the research unit that are taking notes, will consolidate the report and respond to the Home Affairs Department. These are the issues that are arising from the public, which I think in relation to the bill, Home Affairs will respond to the issues of the committee. As we do now, we'll conduct public hearings. We also invite Home Affairs, if that issues that they may need to comment or respond, they do that. It will be wrong at this point for the committee to express a view that this is a decision that we've taken, because people will assume that it's just a compliance. The committee has a decision or Parliament has a decision. So to put Parliament as the institution to pronounce on a decision that is not facilitated in terms of processing, it may not be correct, and it's not what Parliament ought to do. So at the time we're going to conclude the public hearings, interact with Home Affairs, the committee will then deliberate on all the issues. If there's a majority view in terms of the balance of evidence and also the expression of members of the committee, that these provisions we may need to include it, will engage with the department, like we did in the previous consultation when we were engaging with the electoral amendment. And there were certain issues that were not in the bill. We ought to interact with the Home Affairs, Parliamentary Legal Services, Chief State Law Advisors, in order. But those are the issues that at that point the committee will be able to deliberate. Once we take a decision as a committee, we'll then express a view which is informed by the deliberations.
Now, of course, then with that, Chair, South Africa has experienced an increase in fraudulent marriages. I mean, one of the participants in the public hearing did say that sometimes it's just a matter of somebody losing their ID, and tomorrow they go to Home Affairs and find out that they're married to somebody whom they do not know. Now, in this case, how will the bill assist in ensuring that fraudulent marriages do not occur?
Well, there are a lot of South Africans who have raised concerns around that. The committee was also invited to Asukulume program where there were 3 women with different reasons of being married. Somebody said, I've been married when I go to my face, I'm married by 3 male unaware.
Wow.
And those are issues that we're grappling with the Department of Home Affairs. When we're conducting public hearings in Umtata, obviously you know that there may be others who agree with the bill but who raise other service issues of Home Affairs.
Yes.
There was a lady, a woman, met Umama Utoyana, who raised a point that, look, she said she agreed with the part of the bill, but a matter that has been went to Home Affairs for almost 15 years. She has been struggling to change the status of marriage because Home Affairs recorded her that she's married by two different men, unaware. So those are some of the issues that we grapple with. But secondly is that the Sixth Administration initiated a process for government or the executive to review the entire citizenship, marriage and protection of refugees. And that in 2020, the then Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Mtswalet, pronounced in Parliament that that's going to be a reform in terms of and the white paper is now being before the Cabinet.
Yes.
We are fully aware that the supplementary issues that need to be inputted in the bill. So those are the issues that will find expression when we deal with the white paper on citizenship, migration, and the protection of citizenship. But it's an important point that we are raising. We've engaged with Home Affairs. There's a DDG there, DDG Sigama, who's responsible for civic. And the Deputy Minister in the last interaction with the Portfolio Committee, Deputy Minister Njabulo Nzunza, the committee expressed some of these issues that you are raising in terms of fraudulent IDs and marriages that negatively impact on the lives of our people.
Now, of course, this is a reminder that this is a special broadcast brought to you by Parliament of RSA on Parliament TV, Channel 408, on DSTV, and on over 30 community radio stations in the Northern Cape, Namakwaland FM, Riverside FM, and in KZN, in Tokozo FM, Vibe FM, DYR FM, in KZN FM, North Coast Radio, and also in Limpopo, we are on Skukune FM, Waterberg FM, and Tabanchu FM. Now, please join in the conversation by calling in to ask our guest questions and comment on the marriage bill. And you can do so by calling us on WhatsApp on 073 444-9810. That is 073-444-9810. You can also leave a comment on WhatsApp. Send us a text, and you can also use our social media platforms. That is X and Facebook, and we'll strive to attend to all the questions. Of course, the conversation continues with the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Mr. Musa Chabane. Now, Chairperson, of course, marriage involves not only just two people. It's communities, it's especially religious communities, it's cultural communities as well. Can you just explain to our viewers the importance of ensuring that you have one statute? Unlike what we have now, we have the Marriage Act, we have the Civil Union Act, we have the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. Why is it so important to have it under one consolidated bill that will eventually become an act after the whole process of Parliament?
Well, I think the most important is for certification of concluding marriages. And this bill seeks to rationalize all the existing marriages, all irrespective of religion, traditional, or any other belief, into one statute. Yes. And also designate marriage officers to facilitate these marriages. And what is important that previously, as I've indicated earlier on, that there was a process that was initiated for a commission to look on the entire marriages, existing marriages, and able to have a single statute that includes all marriages, including the Muslim marriages. So it's important that this single statute seeks to respond to the conclusion or solemnization of all marriages that are existing in any other beliefs.
So it's safe to say then that even with the long-standing issue with the recognition of Muslim marriages, that the marriage bill now will recognize Muslim marriages as well.
Yes, that I think is one of the court directive, as you've indicated, that directive that has not included the Muslim marriages. But also there's a contest around some in the Muslim sector, that the Constitutional Court did not direct Parliament or the President to have a single marriage statute. It is specific because the Marriage Act of 1961 was not inconsistent with the with the Constitution. But I think the rider is in the context that the single status marriage bill has already been commissioned by the Reform Commission that the former minister then has constituted. But overall, all existing marriages will be included. It's also important to know that there's a good response from all spectrum in relation to the acceptance of this single marriage statutes. Though there are some of the provisions or chapters that members of the public or stakeholders are not approving, which the committee and the Department of Home Affairs, when we deliberate, some of the issues, those that we may need to look at.
So with that then, Chair, you're saying that will the bill then be able to eliminate these distinctions between the types of marriages and ensure fair and equal treatment of all spouses then?
Yes, it will, because it must be within the Constitution of the Republic. And it must also within the framework of the international protocol in terms of the marriage, including the children protections of children. So our view, reading the bill, we think that it responds to those questions that, or what is important is that it must be within the framework of the Constitution.
Now, Chair, let's focus on the requirements that the bill proposes of, you mentioned both monogamous and polygamous marriages. And throughout the interactions that you've had with the committee on the public hearings, one of the contentious issues was the eligibility age of marriage, right? What is the issue there? Also, how does the bill seek to ensure that there are no child marriages?
Well, the Constitution defines a person younger 18 years and below. And also the protocols that were part of define a child as any person that is younger, 18 years and younger.
That's correct.
But also and that is the spirit in which the bill has been, that provision that propose 18 years spouses can be involved in the marriage. But as we engage with the South African stakeholders, they're raising an issue of those may not be matured to be involved in marriages. And secondly, they're still at school. I'm just saying things that members of the public have been raising. And they're proposing that at the age of 21. Some, I think in Mpumalanga, they even say in 25 must be involved in marriages. So those are some of the issues that will, at the point that now that we're still engaging with members of the public, will able to do. But a significant number of submissions around that question, that the age must be increased to 21. But also the bill also provides that any person who is a marriage officer, once it has been passed and signed by the president, who has been found to be facilitating marriage involving minors, will be subjected to penalties and also imprisonment.
Okay. So it does deal with the fact that you cannot have minors getting involved in marriages. The reason why I asked this, Chair, is because on our social media platforms, we had put up that we are going to have this interview. And somebody did mention that in terms of the recognition of Customary Laws Marriages Act, that the requirement is that you have to be, both participants have to be 18, they have to be consenting, and that the wedding must be negotiated and celebrated in the cultural way. However, it does then say that if a person is a minor, then the parent can consent. The reason why I'm asking this now is that, so you're trying to say that what the bill is trying to ensure is that not even a parent can consent for a minor anymore, even in a customary marriage.
Yes, it proposed that there are two versions also that have been raised from the other points of the traditional authorities.
Yes.
That it will suggest to undermine the cultural ethos, as you know, that there are those that facilitate marriages with minors.
Yes.
But it will serve as a protections of protection of children. But also the bill gives also recognize the facilitation of marriages by the traditional authorities and give powers for them to facilitate. So the bill proposes within that context that there must be an age limit for spouses within that to be involved, conclude marriages. Yeah.
Well, of course, that is a reminder that this is a special broadcast brought to you by Parliament of RSA, and we have a caller on the line. Caller, you are live on Parliament TV. Please, Kyle, let us know what is it that you would like to say about the marriage bill.
No, good evening, and good evening to yourself, and good evening to the esteemed chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. My name is Carl Modise. I'm tuned into North Coast Radio in Richards Bay. I've got two questions.
All right.
In relation to the bill. I wanted to know, is the bill in any way going to elevate what we know as now, what's termed customary marriage, to the same level? Or should I put it? Is it going to be able to equate marriages so that we don't have this two-tier system of marriages? In other words, because we do know that a certain Mr. Shipstone is the one that came up with this idea of defining and informing what are still the remnants of the current act. In other words, in KZN, in most other provinces that practice African cultures and norms, when it comes to marrying, we find that there's been a serious infringement over the years that subject us to things that are not of us. So does this bill look to resuscitate and probably even eliminate the notion that one woman, one man, you understand? Okay. All right. And bring it, or you can marry you can get married to two people. The second question is, it's unfortunate when you came to KZN, would have loved it that you come to our side of Richards Bay, where we've got a high, there's a high religious and cultural leaning towards polygamous marriage, and it's actually lived. It's not imagined. It's actually lived, and arranged marriages are still there, whether it's through the church or through the what's the name? Yes. So I hope the bill. How is the bill going to address that? Arranged marriages. They might not necessarily be of minors, but arranged marriages. Yeah. And the rights of those that are married in what is now customary, can they also be elevated to the same level, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And that was Carl from Richards Bay. Chair, 2 questions to you, mostly around polygamous marriages. One, Carl wants to know whether this will elevate customary marriages to the same level as, I guess, the normal marriage that we know. Does the bill do that?
Well, correct. The bill also seeks to the requirement of polygamous marriages. If I want to be involved in the polygamous marriages, the first wife must have consent from the first wife.
Okay. And
also there must be concurrence with the courts in terms of making sure that she accepts for the second wife. Secondly, there must be a demonstration on my part, on the part of the husband, that he will able to manages the marriage, but also on the after. Remember, the other issues that have been raised is that when people are involved in marriages, once this other person dies, there's going to be feud within the partners. So there must be demonstration around that part of inheritance and also the issue. So it's correct that the bill seeks to create fairness around the decisions that spouses ought to take in conclusion of the marriage.
Now, with that then, Chair, Carl second asked about arranged marriages and whether the rights of these people then will also be protected by the bill. So basically, does the bill address arranged marriages?
Once the bill also seeks to respond to these arranged marriages. Arranged marriages, you can arrange a marriage without the first wife knowing. Or you can arrange, I think one of the cases that we've learned about in one of the public hearing is that one participant says that a family can arrange a marriage, a second wife marriage, outside the knowledge, without the knowledge of the first wife.
Oh, okay.
So those are some of the issues that this bill seeks to regulate the involvement of conclusion of marriages. So it's important to accustom within the provisions of the bill. There's no highlight in terms of the provisions that are entailed there of the arranged bill. And this is one of the submissions that the committee and the Home Affairs may need to look at once is involved. It is good to raise it because in the public hearings there are certain underlying expressions that are practiced, which either Parliament, or members of Parliament, or committee, or may not be aware. And this conversation on the marriage bill expose some of the underlying issues that women are suppressed and were not able to know. But in the main, it responds to some of the issues that Mutisa has raised in this platform.
And then with that, Chair, of course, now talking about polygamy and talking about the rights of women that find themselves in, that choose to be in these relationships. Of course, it's a contentious issue. We've become familiar with it. And a lot of people say that it perpetuates discrimination against women. So just quickly, Chair, does the marriage bill ensure that the rights of all people, including women, within polygamous marriages, you did mention especially should the husband pass on, what then happens after that in terms of inheritance and all of those things? Are their rights protected?
That's the reason that this bill proposes to protect women. Or any other person that is involved in the marriage. Hence, there's a proposal in the bill that seeks to give women more power to determine that whether a husband can be involved, invite a second woman. But also the other view is that if the other women raised in Mpumalanga, that if the first wife does not agree to what is the recourse, and those are some of the issues that we will be grappling with with the Home Affairs. But in principle, is that the provision seeks to protect all women that want to be involved in the polygamous marriages.
And of course, this is a reminder that this is a special broadcast brought to you by Parliament of RSA on Parliament TV Channel 408 on DSTV and on over 30 community radio stations. In Gauteng, we are on Kofifi FM, Sidibeng FM, Rainbow FM. And please join the conversation by calling in to ask our guests a question or comment on the marriage bill. And you can do so by calling us on WhatsApp on 073-444-9810. That is 073-444-9810. You can also leave a WhatsApp text if you're shy. You don't want to call us, and you can use our social media platforms X and Facebook. We'll strive to attend to all the questions. Of course, the conversation continues here with the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Mr. Musa Chabane. Now, Chairperson, we talk about polygamy a lot. And in some of the people have been raising the issue of polyandry. And for those who don't know, polyandry is a system that allows a woman to marry multiple husbands. And so the question is then, well, is this then included in the bill? Does the bill make provision for the system of polyandry?
Well, it's an interesting topic. Before I came here, I met some gentlemen. There were three, so they were engaging with me that is this included in the bill?
Yes.
It's not included in the bill.
Okay.
But what I can say is that when the white paper was developed, it was included as a proposal.
Okay.
Before it was approved by cabinet. And the executive made consultations throughout stakeholders, and ultimately it did not, that provisions did not find expression in the white paper, and also in the bill. It does not it's not proposed in the bill. But views are expressed by members of the public, particularly some part of women that have suggested that they must include this polyandry. But also it's something that will engage with it when at the right time with the members. But as stands, it's not within the framework of the bill. But I can attest that it has been raised throughout some part of the public hearing. But also the traditional and the clergy have been not been raising sharply this subject, because it does not find general acceptance. That's why also it could not find expression in the bill when it was consulted during the white paper consultation process.
Now then, with that, Chair, of course, a lot of people might be also asking themselves then, well, with the development now in the process of this new bill, does this mean that I need to re-register my marriage should this bill come into fruition and become an act?
No, you don't need to re-register. Remember, it rationalizes all existing marriages laws. Once the act is being passed, any other person is going to be involved in the marriage. You'll be subjected to that process. As it stands, if everybody can re-register, it will be just cumbersome in terms of the processes. So once it's been passed, and you or any other spouses want to be involved in the marriages, they'll be subjected to that act.
So, Chair, now looking at the cultural aspect, and we look at religious marriages as well, and I'll speak specifically with the Muslim community, for example. What will then happen should the bill come into fruition? Those marriages where your 16-year-old minors have been involved in marriages, do those marriages become null and void? What's the process? Should this bill become an act?
No, it won't be null and void. Remember, it has been they were involved in the marriage within this existing law. This process seeks to amend the legislation, and once the act has been passed by Parliament and assented or signed by the President, it'll become law that will able to be subjected to it. It won't even reverse the previous involved, because they entered within the provision of the Constitution.
Now, in terms of the matrimonial and proprietary consequences, then we know that in a monogamous marriage, this is what happens should one spouse pass on. And there have been issues with regards to polygamous marriages as well, with regards to what happens should one of the spouses pass on. Does the bill address the propriety consequences should one of the spouses pass on within a polygamous marriage?
That's the reason that when we're involved in the polygamous marriages, this bill proposes that there must be a consent from the first wife. Also, there must be concurrence with the court. There must be demonstration on your part in relation to the subject matter that you are raising, that able to comfort all the involved women in the polygamous marriages, and that affirms the protection of those that are involved in the polygamous marriages.
And then with that, the idea, I just got a message now from somebody who is asking about the issue of ukutwala, which has been a long time issue where, in fact, they said, a lot of people describe it as kidnapping of somebody and forcing them into a marriage. How does the bill and the committee then aim to curb some of traditional and cultural undertakings that have become norms within small communities in your rural areas?
I think somebody in Mpumalanga raised it frankly, that you may find that that person is not the person my line of interest, and I'm subjected to that. And they've raised it as an unfair process to get involved in the marriage. Two issues that I think the bill does not explore is on the ukutwala and also the mastalisa. And those are some of the issues that have been raised to the committee that we ought to find a way to include on the bill, or the department may need to create a facilitation in the regulations on how do we deal with that. But it's a difficult, it's a complex matter because it involved traditional space or cultural space that has been practiced over time. But because of the modern realities, we ought to respond to this as members of raising of the public, that ought to respond to these realities. But it's a subject matter that the committee have not even discussed about it or made an opinion. No, Department of Home Affairs had explore in terms of both the white paper and the bill that is before us. So we'll subject it to that deliberations with the public. I mean with the Home Affairs, but within the framework of the Constitution.
Yes, and with that, then, Chair, of course, we know that South Africa is a diverse nation. And now I want to focus specifically on same-sex marriages and the LGBTQIA+ community. And how then does the bill ensure that though the community is included, same-sex marriages are included, especially when it comes to marriage officers who are strict when it comes to solemnizing same-sex marriages? How does the bill address that?
You recall that the Civil Union 2006 Act recognized the same-sex marriages.
Yes.
And these single marriage statutes attempt to rationalize all existing marriages. I think that is a principle that we ought to affirm.
Yes.
So it will, and also secondly is that the committee at this particular time may not express a view, or this marriage sector is not going to be included or has been included. What Parliament or the committee ought to facilitate to make sure that all existing marriages within the framework of the Constitution are included in the single marriage statute. But what we received so far from the public, particularly from a particular sector or religious community, there are views that say no, we can't include it in the single marriage statutes, and also part of the traditional authorities they're raising that, but part of the religious community also accept that it must be included in the single marriage statute. The difference issues that are coming up is the facilitation of the designation facilitation those marriages, and the provision, the bill also provide that you are not obligated if you are not believing in this marriage, same-sex marriage, you can facilitate it. But when you are an official of Department of Home Affairs, you're obligated because you ought to facilitate all marriage officers in terms of the laws that have been provided for you to facilitate marriages.
And then focusing now on marriage officers, what are then their responsibilities when it comes to solemnizing and officiating marriages?
Well, the two bill outline on how the Minister of Home Affairs must designate marriage officers that must facilitate marriages. And secondly, within the jurisdiction of their authorities, both those that are traditional authorities, religious communities, and those that are in Home Affairs. But as I said earlier on, that the provisions also cap or give comfort in relation to facilitation of marriages. If you're not comfortable, you can. It's not a punishment if you can't facilitate same-sex marriages, but there are options that they can take. So that is the expressed provisions in the bill.
And is there a responsibility then on the marriage officers, for example, with the requirements for both a monogamous and polygamous marriage, that the both parties should be 18 or older, that they must give consent and they must be of sound mind? Is there a responsibility on the marriage officer to ensure that these requirements are being adhered to when they do officiate a marriage?
One of the tasks of the Department of Home Affairs is to establish regulations to induct marriage officers once this bill has been passed, because it changes some of the facilitation conduct of marriage officers. And within the Act, if once has been adopted, so a marriage officer should know his or her responsibility in terms of concluding or facilitating marriages. Once you work outside that framework, you will be, the provision will suggest that you will be punished, and also it can be the Director General, which powers you don't have now, can revoke your status of marriage officers.
And then with that, Chair, then of course, the committee has only gone to 4 provinces, and that is Gauteng, Mpumalanga, KZN, and the Eastern Cape. What's next for the committee?
The committee, we are going to conduct public hearings in Northwest, I think in 3 districts. And after that, we'll go to both Free State and Northern Cape, and Limpopo. Those are the other provinces that are left for public consultation. But what is important is that we work closely with the Public Education Unit of Parliament, involve stakeholders on the ground, traditional, religious, and any other interested person on this subject, to conduct what we call workshop before the committee conduct public hearing, and which is important. We must emphasize that it serves as a workshopping members. At the time the committee interact with them, we're able to find experience. Secondly, is to utilize the space of Parliament, the parliamentary website, platform, which is highly appreciated, to reach out to all members of the public on this subject. For example, we have went to KZN and these other 4 provinces. They still have a responsibility if they've not they've not made their own submissions. Yes. We even told them that this is a process for you to consider. You can go back and consult each other, and do written submissions to parliamentary website and any other form that will reach the portfolio committee.
Chair, I'm told that we have a voice note from somebody who has been hearing and listening to us. Let's hear what you have to say.
Good evening. Atengosi from Zbonile FM. I just want to quickly ask, how will the bill accommodate people who are in vet and seat relationships? I just want to find out and need clarity from that.
Well, Chair, that's a question for you. And he says that how will the bill accommodate people that are in vet situations? I'm not sure if I heard that properly, though.
I think it's fat and set. I can.
Fat and set.
No. I think we've noted the submissions.
I think a lot of people are very interested in that.
People,
yes.
And particularly women that look. I've been, for example, I'm giving an example. Vincent Shoba has been with this woman, or Homoto Malachi have been with this woman for 15 years. Yes. But they've never showed a course of action that look, we can enter in the marriage. And when there's somebody that
somebody passes
away, is a problem. So it's an express view, particularly from the side of women, that they've been raising to the committee. It's up to the committee and Department of Home Affairs to deliberate around that point once we're able to find expression. But I think members of the committee have taken note of that matter of cohabiting.
Yes. And of course, with that, Chair, then to ensure that people put out their issues as well, you did mention that you still have to go to Northwest, you still have to go to the Free State. Can you please just emphasize also to the viewers and to the listeners the importance of them coming to these public hearings and participating within the public participation hearings, and ensuring that the committee hears them, and that by the time this bill is processed, that their views and their expressions have been heard? Why is that important?
Well, it's important because society think that when you process the bill or the law, we take decisions and then we come back to them. So it's not the case. So it's important that bills that are subjected for public hearings, including written invites, are important because they will regulate how they are involved in certain things. So it's up to members of the public. But also it's important to know that not all the issues will be taken. Because we are working within the framework of the Constitution. But it's important that we get all members of the public, NGOs, political parties, and interested people. We'll try all our best to make sure that you utilize all these platforms. We reach out for workshop, as we've been doing, the committee and other committees, and it's important that they respond to this debate. There's no decision
that has been
taken. This is a process of consultation, and we seek their submission.
Chair, I hear that we have a voice note from Agnes. Agnes, you've decided to public participate with us today. Please, let's hear what you have to say.
Good evening to our studio. I would like to know from the chairperson that this new bill, does it have a in committee of property or out of committee of property? Since maybe the second wife come in this marriage without any contribution, and then how am I protected in this marriage? Thank you.
Propriety rules, Chairperson, when it comes to assets at the dissolution of a marriage, especially when you have a polygamous relationship and somebody comes in and they don't have anything. Is it all still in community of property? Am I responsible now for the second wife should I decide to leave the marriage?
Well, the bill has not went extensively in terms of the two issues which are already existing in terms of determination of in community or out of community. And the reasons that they must be consent from the first wife and also the concurrence of the court is to determine the what the caller she's raising. But there's going to be fairness in terms of the apportioning the assets that have been carried, and also the contribution of all the spouses. But what I think is important is that at the time we engage with the Home Affairs and the committee deliberate on the subject matters, we'll have a full comprehension in terms of what will be the decision of the committee once this bill has been passed.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chair.
No, thanks very much. And on behalf of the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs, we want to appreciate this opportunity. It assists us to note some of the issues and also the listeners, and also invite all stakeholders to join on this conversation of the marriage bill. Thanks very much, and your team.
Thank you. And of course, that was the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Mr. Musa Chabane, providing insight on the marriage bill and the public participation thereof. Of course, we have come to an end of another exciting show, and Parliament continues to fulfill its constitutional responsibilities. And to stay informed about Parliament's engagements, follow, like and subscribe on all social media platforms at Parliament of RSA, and visit our website at www.parliament.gov.za, and that is where you will also get information on further public hearings that the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs will undertake in the coming months. Please make sure that you do participate. After all, it is your Parliament, your voice, your future. Well, I am Tshepo Mori, and thank you for listening and for watching. From myself and the team behind the scenes, take care.
This book, our Constitution, protects our society and empowers us to govern. The Protea leaves are us, the people, who freely elect our voices in Parliament. The drum calls the people of Parliament, through whom we govern together. And the sun is our country, healing our past, improving our lives, and energizing our potential. Together, our Constitution, our people, our Parliament, and our country are building our great South African nation. Parliament TV, Channel 408 on DSTV.